Hello, everyone. I'm with Natalie today. She is the founder and CEO of Juno House. It's such a pleasure to have you here with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Natalia, for taking the time to come and visit us.
Amazing. Natalie, she's the founder of Juno, as I said, and Juno House is basically Barcelona's first members club that is designed by and for women, with an emphasis on holistic well being and professional development. Juno House basically offers business, wellness, and motherhood services for women all over the world that are based and live in Barcelona. So, yeah, I would like to start this interview by asking you, who is Natalie?
So as we were having a little bit of chit chat, before starting the recording, my name is Natalie. I'm originally from Chicago. My father is Spanish from Barcelona. My mother is Greek American. And I've always kind of spent my childhood and early years traveling a lot between the United States and Spain. And about 10 years ago, I decided to make Barcelona my home.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little bit of that multicultural background when it comes to growing up. And this love affair, like many other people with the city of Barcelona, resonates from my father and just from loving the lifestyle and making it something for me. I'm a mother. I have two small children, Elliot and Chloe. Elliot's about 4.5 and Chloe 2.5. And they're definitely an integral part of also my entrepreneurship journey.
Beautiful. And what were your biggest cultural shocks that you experienced from moving to the US, to Chicago, like such a big city, to Barcelona?
I think that because I spent so much time really being between both places, I didn't have so much of a cultural shock until really maybe when I kind of embraced the ambition and the professionalism
Mm-hmm.
part of my personality. I lived in other cities. I lived in San Francisco for a while when I worked on the Obama campaign. I lived in New York because my background is in advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And I traveled a lot through EMEA from being based in Barcelona. I think that all cities have something special. Barcelona is very much a town. So if you've lived in a big city,
Totally. I
it's
agree.
like this is a town. You run
Yeah.
into people at the bakery.
Yeah.
That doesn't really happen in Chicago.
Yeah.
You run into the same people when you're on vacation. It's
Yeah.
it's definitely a town, but I think that for a family, like as a mother now, me and my husband feel like we love this place to raise our children.
Hmm.
And for Juno House, it was the perfect backdrop.
Yeah. I lived in Los Angeles for almost 2 years, and I can totally relate to what you said with like Barcelona being a town. It's
Yeah,
like, yeah, everyone knows each other. Everyone goes to the same places. So yeah,
it's
I
a town.
totally 100%. And so the idea of Juno House basically came to you when you were on maternity leave with your
Mm-hmm.
son Elliot because you realized the importance of having that work-life balance, right? So how do you manage to have this work-life balance? What strategies do you use?
Yeah, I think that work life balance is totally not one size fits all. It's true that the idea for Juno House came to me while I was pregnant, actually. And it wasn't until I had the time of being on maternity leave that I could actually start kind of like materializing and really thinking about what that would look like. I had traveled so much that by the time I was experiencing motherhood, I all of a sudden thought I need a lot of different support channels.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting nervous about what work
Mm.
life balance would look like and how I
Mm.
was going to be able to reconcile all these different parts of my life. And as a woman, we're complicated and we are different and we have different
Mm.
moods and different phases. So right now, I think that work life balance, like today, my son is here, so he's upstairs. He might pop in and do a little bit of a podcast bomb at
I
any
would love
moment if
that.
he's looking for me. So today, it's like I dropped Chloe off at daycare, and now he's with me because today's Friday and it's
Hmm.
casual, and I don't have
Hmm.
that many meetings, so I brought him with
Hmm.
me. Usually, I'm very scheduled.
Hmm.
It's kind of the only way to survive, but
Hmm.
we go to the mountains a lot. So for us, work life balance as a family is on the weekends we go to the Pyrenees, and that's how we disconnect.
Oh, I love that. And also having that flexibility to bring your kid in if you want to,
Yeah,
right?
and a lot of members do that. So, and I was laughing because my son he's a little boy. He's very rambunctious. It's hard to get him to sit still. But the other day, I had a couple of different members come in because they're in the same situation. Their kids are
Mm-hmm.
off of school. We're still in summer, and I just love watching the members bring their kids here and order like pancakes from the cafe and just kind of hang out. And so it's really a joy for me to see that.
Beautiful, I'm sure it is. And could you tell me about your background and journey to becoming a CEO? What experiences shaped your career path? Because I know there's so many people that are stuck in jobs they don't like and they're not feeling fulfilled. So yeah, what experiences shaped your career path?
So briefly mention, my background has always been kind of rooted in communications, marketing, and brand consultancy.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my first, I guess, professional adventure on the Obama campaign of 2008. That was the year that I graduated university, to kind of give a little bit of an anchor to my story. And I feel like I learned from the best storyteller of all time. So I've always been really inspired by creative storytelling, by marketing, by branding. And I moved into this world of advertising early on. I worked for a very big digital PR firm for many years, both in Barcelona and in New York. And when I moved back to Barcelona, because I took kind of a hiatus, where I went to New York for about 2.5, 3 years. And that, probably leading back to the question, is one of the first moments where I realized that the world is so big and that there's so many ways to make an impact. I think it's probably when I found my my ambition was in New York. And then when I moved back to Barcelona, it's also probably one of the first times when I realized, oh man, I love this city, but it is lacking in a lot of areas. And I think I started kind of putting together the dots a little bit, that this New York spirit and a Barcelona lifestyle could be really innovative. As a CEO, I'm still learning. So my background is much more in marketing. I'm probably more equipped to be a CMO. You know, the CEO part you learn on the go. I don't have an MBA, don't have a formal training, but I was lucky enough to be high enough in my career at a director level in marketing that I really was able to learn from, being a part of executive meetings and working alongside the CEO in different environments. I think that helped me a lot. And now I surround myself by good people. So I have operational people. I have a COO. I have my co-founders. We're all kind of part of this experience.
Mm-hmm. And how important do you think it is to surround yourself by good people, and what do you mean by that?
There's no way you can start a company if you don't. I think that, like, one of the best pieces of advice I got is, surround yourself by people who are smarter than you. Like, there's just no way. If you put together a mediocre team because you want to be the star, then I think that would work maybe in like a creative project that's pop up for 3 months, but I don't think it's possible to create a viable business model out of that. You need to have people that are no more than you in their areas of expertise. So I think that we always try and push it. Whenever I get somebody here who's a rising star, it makes me thrilled. It's like, wow, this person is amazing at design, or this person knows so much about hospitality. Wow, I don't know anything about hospitality. That's amazing. So I think it's really key to business in general.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I feel like everyone has its own superpower,
right?
And it's just about developing it. But yeah, having a team that is talented in their own way, I think, is key, because everyone is different, right? And anyone has its own abilities.
Sure.
And so, can you share a specific example of a difficult decision you've had to make as a CEO, and how you navigated through it?
I think that there's probably at least one difficult situation a week. I think that one of the areas where we had like our first challenge, to speak more broadly, was Juno House was so incredibly, this a lot of times they say what is really good can then become a problem, right? Like, Juno House had this incredible press launch. We were everywhere. We organic media, when it came to social media growth, when it came to actually being covered in the news, both locally, internationally, digital and print. We had such an incredible, like, rocket ship launch that we weren't ready for it. We were still putting together the website, and we all of a sudden had 200 applications for membership. It was like a day. I remember saying, I'm so grateful that we have this website, because we weren't even going to have it ready. And that was an example of having my COO at the time say, I'm not sleeping tonight. I know that tomorrow we're going to have, something's going to happen. And we put that together overnight to make sure we were ready. And so I think that entire experience of what they call in Spanish, casi muriendo de éxito, like almost, failing because of too much success, was really hard for us, because we were so excited and we were so humbled by the outreach, but operationally we were not ready. We didn't have process. We didn't have a customer success team. We didn't have digital tools. We didn't have our software. And all of a sudden we had 200 women, and then it was 400, and then it was 600. And we were just inundated by applications, and we didn't have a team to respond. And I think as a CEO, like, that was one of the first moments where I go, be careful what you wish for, because in our next location, when we open, I'll certainly won't necessarily open that, that faucet until we're ready to give a really great experience.
Yeah, because I'm all about starting before you're ready and taking perfect action and all that stuff. But yeah, you can pay the price.
You can pay the price in a model that's big. You know, I
Yeah.
think that like, and again, I agree with you, and I would still say that it's better to go for it than to wait in most situations.
Mm.
But it's true that when you have a business like Juno that touches everything, because that's what makes it so innovative, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
we're a members club, but we also have this well-being, you know,
Hmm.
part of our business. We have Little Juno, which is for families. We have, you know, F&B, we have a cafe, we have a restaurant, and then we have all of the events and experiences.
Mm.
If you're not more tied up, you know, it can
Mm.
be hard to give a really excellent experience to your first members. But luckily, like I think any early adopters or founding members, whether it's, you know, a new tech product or whether it's a members club, people that want you to succeed have patience for you. And
Yeah.
our members have been like rooting for us from day one.
Wow. I'm so happy to
Yeah.
hear that, honestly. And what leadership qualities do you believe that are essential for any female CEO? Or what leadership qualities do you believe that you have?
I think that one of the things has helped me is that I've never been afraid to try things, and I've never been afraid to take risks. And I think that like more than ever now, I think that that's really helped Juno House, and that's really helped me. On the days that I'm feeling insecure, I can already see my leadership be a little bit rocky,
Mm.
you know, because people look up to you, and that's what makes you a good leader. And so it's really important, I think, to be in mental and physical shape to be able to come in and be cool headed, you know. And we're women, especially, we have more emotions. That's a fact. And I can tell you that's definitely a fact after having operated Juno House for a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Our team is 90% female. You know, I don't think that's actually on purpose. We'd love to have more men working at the house because
Mm-hmm.
that's not a rule at all. But there's a lot of emotion, and I think that as a leader, you know, our leadership team, we have to be cool headed, because you have to make sure that people understand that you're accessible, but that you know what you're doing. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that confidence is really key to leadership, and
Mm.
that people that don't feel naturally confident, there's ways to work on that, and you know, through coaching and just through exercise. And I don't mean through like I don't mean the physical aspect of that. I mean just feeling like you have the energy to lead is really important.
Yeah, everything is interconnected, right? If you don't
Right.
feel physically fit, you're not going to feel mentally fit, and
Right.
vice versa too.
Yeah.
And this is actually something that a lot of women struggle with, right? Especially when we're in our period, for example, we maybe not feel as confident or as productive, and then we
Yeah.
judge ourselves because we're like, oh, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, right? So yeah, like, do you implement any specific strategies on those days that you don't feel as confident, for example? How do you stay
Uh,
strong and cool headed?
no, you got to be an actress as well, you
Fake it till
know?
you make it,
Yeah, I
right?
think acting is part of being a CEO for anybody in this role. And again, in a very good way, right? Like I don't mean faking it and being falsifying. No, I mean from a personal perspective
Mm.
of when you walk into a room, smile, you know. And Juno House is very unique because this is a very open model. You know, maybe later you can do some capturing of content for this
Sure.
for the people who are watching, but everybody sees you, so it's even more important to really evoke that you love what you do. And I do love what I do, but there's days where you're tired,
Yes, of course.
and maybe one day I'll have enough under control that I'll just stay home, but that hasn't
Yeah.
been the case yet.
Yeah, like we all have good and bad days, right? It doesn't matter if you're like a CEO, if you're Barack Obama, if you're Oprah
Right.
Winfrey, we all have good and bad
Of
days.
course.
We all struggle with insecurities,
Of
imposter
course.
syndrome. It's totally normal,
Of course.
right? And the Juno woman believes in collaboration versus competition.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so this was really like that's always been at the root of Juno, right? So we talk a lot about work-life balance, and then we
Mm-hmm.
talk a lot about collaboration versus competition. I think
Mm-hmm.
those are like the two messages that you always kind of see woven.
Mm-hmm.
One speaks to more of like the services and the design and what we offer on a very tangible level, and the other talks about our philosophy and our
Mm-hmm.
values. So
Mm-hmm.
people ask, what's a Juno woman? I'm like, listen, believes in this key principle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Women who are here to learn from one another, to support one another, to be there on the good days, the bad days. And I think collaboration versus competition has been absolutely what was part also of the success in the beginning. I think a lot of people resonated with that message, and we see it. You know, we have in just a year and a half of being operational, we have more than 20 groups of women who have created their own initiatives at the house.
Wow.
We have women in tech, we have women in TikTok, we have um, a digital group that is more executive level, women who work for big companies like SAP and Salesforce, who come and
Mm.
change experiences. We have Feedback Fridays, which is a group of entrepreneurs, of women who come here to share feedback, to basically do focus grouping and support one another. We have a gastronomy group. It's amazing. And these are all examples of women who share similar interests, who could be slightly competitive outside of Juno House because maybe they both have the same business or service. But here it's all about supporting one another.
I love that. And this is actually something that I also do, with my coaching business. I coach mainly women, and I have a group of women from different countries, different cultures, different backgrounds. And the goal is to just support and encourage each other, right? Because as women, you can feel pretty lonely sometimes, especially if you're like an entrepreneur or if you're like high up in a business. It can be a very like lonely journey. So knowing that you have that support group that you can rely on whenever you need to, it brings you like a lot of peace of mind. So yeah, I feel like we're very aligned, with this collaboration versus competition. And yeah, you mentioned that of course you need to like take a lot of like risky decisions and make important decisions, right, within your role. So how do you manage to like stay calm and at peace when you need to take a decision that is risky?
It's like a very fine line between analyzing the situation and not acting in the moment, but also not letting yourself go into analysis paralysis. And this is something that like I talk a little bit about when I do public speaking and keynotes, because it's really a fine line. And as women, it's even finer, because it's really easy to go, I've made up my mind in the moment, boom, which works for a lot of things. But when you're doing something delicate, which could be HR or it could be customer service, things where there's people on the other side, that's risky. And it's also risky to give yourself too much time that all of a sudden you're in a wheel of just spinning. Do I do this? Do I do that? It's really hard. So I don't think there's like a formula for that, but I try and really kind of
focus.
Yeah.
No?
And again, in Spanish, there's a saying like, don't like no penses in ni caliente ni frío. Like it's like this fine line of like finding this middle ground. And I don't know. I'm not wise enough to answer that question, but I do really try and remember that rule for myself.
Yeah, I feel like as women, we're like very intuitive also. So I feel like it's also about going with your gut, with your instinct, and not overthink things, because
not overthinking, but not being impulsive.
Exactly.
That's the fine line.
Which for me, I'm very impulsive. I'm like the opposite of like an overthinker. And yeah, now I'm like trying to find that balance because it's very necessary.
Fine line. I think especially for women leaders.
Yeah, 100%. And can you share a memorable achievement or moment that you're particularly proud of during your time, well, as a CEO or like throughout your life? Anything you would like to share with us?
I mean, I'm just so proud of everything, obviously related to Juno House. I'm really grateful. Like, I feel even more proud now because I took off this month of August. I mean, I took off. I was working, but I wasn't here. I was with my family. I was traveling. I went home to Chicago. I was in the mountains. And now coming back, I feel like I'm seeing everything through this very clear lens. And I look at my team and I go, wow, last September when I came back, I felt so guilty because I felt like, oh my gosh, we are not ready. We're still not ready. I was going into that mental welta of, oh my gosh, we're not good enough. This project's not going to work. Our team's not prepared, And now I came back and I looked at my team and I go, we have really, now we're ready for operational excellence. Now the members look at us as thought leaders and as confident and like we're the right guides for this journey. And I'm really proud of that because creating a team has been very hard. It's so hard for so many people and it's so hard especially for startups because you don't have the budget that a multinational has. It doesn't mean that you can necessarily bring in the right people through just some kind of a pay like just for money. You're looking for these soft skills, these hard skills. You're looking to create a culture that people want to belong to. Our mission was very easy for people to resonate with. But when it came from the training, we needed to take time on that. And so I'm really, really proud of the team.
And what helped you shift that mindset from like feeling guilty to being like, okay, I am more than ready for this?
It's time.
Time.
Yeah. Time. I for me, I think it just was time. And I think it was a little bit of space. I think that like this gratitude again comes from having taken a step back. They always say that it's hard to make decisions when you're in the forest, right? Like that's like the famous saying about, don't be so stuck in the forest. You're not going to see the trees. You're just going to see it's all a blur. And that's how it feels when you're an entrepreneur in the first year. Everything is very much a blur. I have a friend who I've kind of stolen this from him because I loved it when he said it. He's another entrepreneur. He said, I work off he goes, I'm so sorry I didn't respond to your phone call. I work off urgency. And I was like, I totally know what that means. That's how I felt the whole first year and a half. Was
Mm.
everything was urgency. Whoever was the
Mm.
most urgent got my attention, whether it
Mm.
was a member or a partner or an
Mm.
investor, or whether it was a technology issue or
Mm.
like the lights didn't work for the
Mm.
day. You work off urgencies, and it takes
Yeah.
time and practice to be able
Yeah.
to delegate,
Yeah.
take a step back, and actually work on strategy. And I think it's all part of the game.
Yeah, I feel like delegating is super key. And since I also started delegating and hiring a super small team, which I'm super proud of, now I'm like, I can breathe, and I'm even more creative and yeah, more at peace, more balance. I can give back more. So I think delegating is super important because sometimes we try to do everything ourselves because we feel like we're superwoman. At least I did. And then I was like, I'm not
Yeah,
superwoman,
of
and
course.
I am very aware of the skills that I have and what I'm good at, but I'm not good at everything,
Of
right?
course,
So I was
impossible.
like, okay, what am I good at? Coaching and sales. So let's focus on that and then delegate the rest,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's it.
Absolutely.
Hmm. So if you could go back in time, would you change anything?
Hmm. No, I wouldn't. I mean, even compared to that first thing I said about almost, we went too fast.
Hmm.
No, I don't think I would. Honestly, I think I would learn. So when we open our next house, absolutely, I'll do things differently. But I don't think it would have changed them because I wouldn't have
Hmm.
learned from them. I think that this project, in many ways, Juno House is a project of destiny.
Hmm.
Everything about this project has been kind of like fueled by something bigger. And I'm not the most spiritual person. My co-founder is much more spiritual than me, and I still believe this. Even
Hmm.
we had a different property and it fell through, and the day after we found this property, which nothing could have been as spectacular as where we are now.
Hmm.
Walking in the Farinera, this very hidden entrance in the middle of Aribacun Diagonal, like I might have regretted that other property if I hadn't found this one, but we found it.
Hmm.
Right? Just all of the energy through the women and our members who support this, who are
Hmm.
so, the women are so incredible here. It's like just surrounding yourself by the creme de la creme of people
Hmm.
who really want to excel.
Hmm.
So I think that everything about this project needed to take its time. We made a lot of mistakes,
Hmm.
so many mistakes that I'm sure any project takes. But I don't think I don't think if we did it differently, I don't think we'd be here.
Yeah, 100%. Totally believe that. And what advice would you give to aspiring female CEOs that aspire to be like you one day?
Absolutely. Again, find your voice, find your confidence, find your balance, and don't be afraid to take risks, to be bold. I think as a woman, it's more important, to really not play it too safe that you can get lost in the crowd. I think we're already kind of lost in the crowd. So I think it's important for women leaders to stand out a little bit, and
Hmm.
to find what makes them unique and use it as a superpower. And it can be
Hmm.
anything, it could be creative, or it could be operation, or it could be, I mean, I don't think there's any one characteristic that defines us.
Hmm.
And I think also one of the pieces of advice I give a lot more for entrepreneurs versus CEOs. I think
Hmm.
CEOs are much about learning about empathy, emotional intelligence, leadership, listening. I'm still working on that myself.
Hmm.
When it comes to entrepreneurship, I think that another piece of advice I give a lot, which is a little bit controversial, but I think that entrepreneurship sometimes is very much like we have this glamorous idea of what it means to be an
Hmm.
entrepreneur. And I think one of the stigmas at Juno House that we talk a lot about, and our members too, is it's not for everybody actually.
No.
Entrepreneurship's not for everybody. A lot of people have this idea that if they become an entrepreneur, they'll work less. No,
Total opposite.
you'll work so much more, and
Yes.
you'll be responsible for everything
Hmm.
from accounting
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
HR to marketing and sales. So I think that's something that I always try and kind of slip in also, because a lot of people glamorize entrepreneurship, and I think we need more women entrepreneurs. We need more women in innovation in general. But I also think it's important to know yourself and know what kind of lifestyle you're looking for.
100%, because I am an entrepreneur myself and I've been like reading a lot about this industry, if you want to call it like that, and the percentage of female entrepreneurs is way lower than male entrepreneurs, right? So we definitely need more
Absolutely, we need
women.
more
Yeah,
women.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
100%. And I feel like what we talked about like delegating is what has helped me the most, right? Because you do like 1 million things and also set boundaries, because I can work 7 days a week if I want to, because for me, I love my job so
exactly.
much that it doesn't feel
Yeah,
like a
there's no
job.
boundaries.
There's no boundaries. And until it reached a point where I was like, okay, I either set boundaries or I'm going to burn out.
Yeah.
And I don't want that,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I feel like this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with,
Oh, for
just
sure.
working nonstop,
And then burning out, but finding the way to get yourself back up again.
which is the hardest part.
Yeah. And that takes a
Totally.
little bit of, I think, space again.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Anything else that you would like to add, share with us?
No, I mean, I just am glad that you could come in. I would encourage for everybody, anybody who's curious about what we're doing, to come in and book a tour and, check it out for yourself. I think that for many people, especially here in Spain, the idea of a members club still seems like really exclusive, and that's one thing, that another stigma that we're trying to kind of break down at Juno House. There's so many inspiring women here, but we come from all walks of life. One of the things that we love is that we're intergenerational. So there's women, and that's really important also for supporting an ecosystem, right? Because you have like young women in their early 20s who are really, who come here, and maybe they're drawn in for more of the interiors, and then all of a sudden they're finding a mentor and they're growing. And then you have more senior profiles of women who are actually already at CEO level, some of whom who are at big companies, and they come here and they're more looking for a glass of wine and to relax. And then the next thing you know, they've met somebody younger. So it's really cool, this ecosystem that we're building. And I think it kind of goes back to what's so different about Juno House compared to a different members club.
I actually love that, because for me specifically, I'm 27 years old. I'm turning 28 this year. And I love surrounded by people that are older than me, because they know more, they have more experience, and I can learn so much from them. And there's something that I haven't seen in like any members club, because it's usually like younger people, let's say. So having like a 50-year-old CEO there that I can talk to if I want to.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the things I think makes us stand out.
Yeah.
And I think that goes again back to our values of collaboration versus competition.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, sweetheart. I really enjoyed this podcast. I learned so much. I'm sure it was super useful for you guys too. Come check it out. I'm going to do a tour right now. I'm super excited to see it, and I'll see you around.
Awesome. Thank you.